Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CMBJS June edition of the meetup. And we are planning to have 2 episodes this month yet. Yeah, let's see how it goes. And hope the quarantine, what we call it? Anyway, the guidelines and all the things going really good. And you are staying in home safely and everybody is actually in healthy state and doing well. Hope that's good for everyone, and that's our thinking. So we are going to talk about some mostly asked questions about progressive web apps and give some introduction to what is actually PWA. And we got Dinuka from Zone 24/7. He actually works as a trainee associate software engineer, right?
Yeah.
He will be actually giving.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, so yeah.
And actually, guys, I have just a small warning. If something goes wrong or if the connection gets disrupted, please forgive us because it's a rainy day today. I think everyone is facing that issue. So please forgive us for that. We will try our best to do the meetup without any issues.
Yeah, that's a fair disclaimer. So we got kind of a thundering and raining currently in few places around the country. So hope things going good and the connection got with us this time, not the demo good. So over to you, Dinuka. So Dinuka actually works for Swan 24/7, and he will be doing a introduction to himself rather than introducing from me. And we have Pubudu in top. He's my co-organizer, and he's the one who's sponsoring this session from StreamYard. And we actually streaming to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. And yeah,
and also
cool. That rich.
Yeah.
Over to you, Dinuka.
Right.
Okay. Thank you, Chatu, and thank you, Pubudu, for having me here. So, hi everyone. I'm Dinuka. So let's start.
Dinuka, we got you kind of.
Chatu mentioned.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Now you're doing that.
Okay, right? Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Dinuka. Like Chatu mentioned, I work as a trainee associate software engineer at Zone 24/7. And Boostmo, Infowaves, and Nifron are 3 other startups that I get to work with some really talented people. Those are some of my other part-time work. So let's get into the topics that we have to discuss for today's session. So these are the topics that we'll be covering today. So I would like to mention that I'll be sharing the slides once the session is over. So if any of you feel like you have to note down anything from the slides, you don't need to worry about taking screenshots or anything like that. So yeah, if we look at the topics, I broke the topics in a way that the first 3 will be focused towards the benefits of building PWAs. And so this will be beneficial for both from a developer's perspective as well as a business BA's perspective as well. So then later on, I'll be moving into how to build a PWA and what my experiences have been with building PWAs. So I have about 4 or 5 demos that I've pre-recorded, and they're really short demos, so you don't need to worry about the demo is not going well. And yeah, so we can get along with the presentation. So starting off, this was me back in November last year when I actually learned about PWAs for some office work. I was told to learn about PWAs for one of our proof of concept implementations. And this was actually me. This was what I mentioned in my own blog back in November. So in my opinion, it's a shame that most of us developers don't build PWAs. And what's even more shameful is the fact that most of the developers that I know, including myself previously, have no idea of the benefits that PWAs can offer. So when I start talking about the benefits, you'll feel like, why haven't I known this for all this time? So I hope that you will be able to relate to this statement by the end of my session. So what are PWAs? According to web.dev, websites that took all the right vitamins are what PWAs are. So web.dev is a really popular and reputed website that discusses and introduces new web technologies. So that's a really good site to learn about PWAs as well. So I've linked a few sites towards the end of the slide deck so that if you want to learn furthermore, you can refer to those. So if you take a web app, a normal web app, and a native mobile app, a web app would have more reach because you can regularly keep it updated and many people can access a web app without being afraid of having without any hardware restrictions. Like some native apps may require more hardware capabilities and all these other things. So because of the nature of native apps, they have the complete capability of making use of all the available hardware and everything that's beneficial for the user. So PWAs have managed to keep the reach that web apps have, as well as capitalize on the capabilities of native mobile apps. So by the looks of this, so this is a breakdown of what native apps are good at and what web apps are good at. So there's nothing new here. This is everything that you know of, and these are basically the reasons why you would either go for a native app or you would go for a web app. So if I am to pinpoint a few so in macOS, Windows, Android, iOS, everything. Yeah. So yeah, I think I broke a bit for a second there. Sorry about that. Yeah. So the main. So speaking about when we take PWAs, so they have all the capabilities that web apps have, as well as they have all the capabilities that I mentioned here that native apps have. So it's like getting all the right vitamins here, right? So let's see how this reflects from a user's point of view. It's like an app, fast, reliable, installable, reliable, and engaging. So it's fast because you can cache content, and it's installable. I'll be showing you how PWAs can be installed because based on the platform, some platforms don't have a very straightforward installation process. Then it's reliable because you can make sure that it's always updated, and because of caching, there are other advantages that you can make use of by like showing offline pages and making sure that the user doesn't feel lost when they just open the application. And then it's also engaging. So PWAs have this capability of engaging the user especially with push notifications. So this is a pretty big advantage, but then I will be talking more about that towards the end of the session when I talk about drawbacks as well, because some platforms aren't as open to the concept of PWAs as maybe some open platforms like Android or Linux. These are some of the features that PWAs support right now, and I actually got this screenshot from what PWA can do today. So you can go and check that out as well. I've just covered all the descriptions because I didn't want to confuse you all with all the details here. But then if you take a look at it, there's WebShare. WebShare is a very interesting thing because you can, if you notice, you can actually share whatever content that you want using your share tray. Like if you want to share something, the PWA will come up in your share tray if you have that installed on your device. And then NFC is another interesting thing. Then there's notifications like I mentioned before, and then there's AR, VR, and all those newer technologies that are more exciting to have in PWAs that enhances the experience of the user. So these are a few developer-centric benefits that I see in building PWAs. There's a single code base. It's cross-platform. Single code is in the sense it's Android, iOS, Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and web. So you get the complete feature set of the web, and you get the possibility to make it available for all users across platforms. Then there's no percentage cutoff and app store. That's another advantage if you just quickly want to prototype an application. Or it's not just actually about prototyping. There's way more advantages than just getting some application up as in a hurry. Then Google Play Store and Microsoft Store actually allow you to list your progressive web app in the app stores. So that's another advantage. These are some of the major companies that have already implemented their websites with PW capabilities. So Twitter was one of the forefronters in moving the web app into a progressive web app. So all these companies mentioned here, they even before they had PWS, they had very robust JavaScript applications. Yeah, I think it's stuck again. I hope that it's okay. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So all these applications had really good user experiences with the frameworks that they were using. They were able to provide really good user experiences. But let's have a look at what PWS brought into their applications. So let's talk about numbers here. The Twitter PWA decreased data usage up to 70%, 75% more tweets. So all these numbers mentioned here, they're really big numbers. And especially if you take Rakuten. So Rakuten 24 is an online store provided by Rakuten, which is one of the largest e-commerce companies in Japan. And Flipkart is also an Indian massive retailer. So if you look at these, you can see that not only have the engagements increased, the application sizes have decreased significantly. So especially if you look at Flipkart, you can directly see the comparison, which says that it's 300 times smaller than the iOS application. And they had all these applications had massive increases in engagement, and because of their engagement increased, of course, their revenue increased as well because they're mainly driven by ads. So the more they have the users, the better. Clinged on. So and there's another thing. So all the companies, all the products that I've taken here are of companies that have enough budget, enough engineers to build multiple native applications. They won't have any issue with that. But you can see with the numbers why they wanted to have a PWA as well. So PWA doesn't mean that you have to have only a progressive web app. It's not just for POCs or MVCs, proof of concepts or minimum viable products. Because if that's the case, then they wouldn't have chosen to have implement their web apps as PWAs. So when I searched online, I actually got that all PWAs are less than 1 MB, but I think that size of almost all PWAs are less than 1 MB. So this is a huge advantage for a user, and it's easier for the developer as well. So this is how you could install a PWA on device. The installation process differs a little bit from operating system to operating system. So Android, of course, you have the ability to show a pop-up like this, and you can code this in JavaScript. So you can show what you want for the user to add the application to home screen. So in iOS, on the other hand, it's a little more complicated. It's not straightforward because iOS doesn't allow you to show a pop-up like that to download the application. Download in the sense it just creates a shortcut in your home screen. So what you can do is open share in iOS, add to home screen, and just save the application, the web app. So this is how it looks in your desktop in Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. You'll get a small icon on the top. Sometimes in some websites, they might pop it up without you having to click it. But sometimes you might have to go there to the address bar and click on this icon that I've shown here. This one. So then when you click on install, it installs the application into your device. Then this is how it would look like. This is in macOS, of course. So it doesn't have an address bar or anything. It opens separately. It'll take a couple of minutes here to open, couple of seconds. Yeah, so it's pretty fast. As you saw, it's pretty fast, and it's really convenient for a user to have this application in their applications website and yeah, I think we're gonna have a regular glitch once in every 5 minutes. Yeah, so this is how it would look in Windows or macOS. Sorry, macOS, even Windows or Linux, it will provide a similar experience, a similar native experience for your website. This is how it would. This is a comparison actually between the mobile app and a PWA. So this is the Twitter mobile application. You can. I tried to do the demo a bit fast so that we won't waste too much time watching demos. So I actually named this Twitter PWA, but you can name it whatever you want when you save the PWA. So this was the first time that I opened the PWA as well after saving it. So you can see how fast and how seamless the experience is, even though it's insanely small. And of course, those swipe gestures and everything can also be implemented with PWAs. So what's needed to convert a normal PWA into a normal web app into a PWA? These are the 3 key components. So logo it looks like a very mediocre, minor point here, but then without a logo, you can't really publish a PWA. So manifest.json, I'll be showing it in the next page as well. Service worker is what allows background sync, caching, and that's what listens to push notifications and all that. So service worker is the background script that helps you get those native capabilities into your web app. So just take a look at this manifest.json as well. So manifest.json is just a small description of what your app has, the icon, like the locations of the icons, the name of it, and you can actually show a splash screen as well. So these are few things that you can mention in the manifest.json file. And then when it comes to service workers, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. So there are about 3 methods that you can convert your web app into a PWA, or when you're starting off to make a web application, you can decide which method you want to choose to move ahead with. So 3 methods in the sense, it's actually mainly 2, but then we'll just take a look at what the 3 are. So this is what a service worker would look like in a vanilla JavaScript. Like it's the most basic implementation of a service worker from scratch, which is not really that difficult either. So this has shown how you can cache the files. Let me just post this here. Yeah, so it just says here, if the response was okay, you can cache the file. If not, just show whatever your cached files are. So the logic is pretty straightforward here. And even though this is the basic vanilla JS sort of implementation, but even that is not that difficult. So the next method is, it just makes things a little bit easier. So Workbox is a library that you can use to implement PWA capabilities into your app. So this will provide sort of an abstraction for you to easily implement the features that I've been mentioning throughout. So Workbox can be installed as an NPM package, or some of the frameworks actually come with Workbox pre-installed. So if you take your favorite framework, it can be React, Vue, Angular, Gatsby, Next, Svelte, anything, and there are even more. So for any framework, you can convert your web application created into a PWA. So especially if you take React, Create React app used to, actually all React apps had a service worker until maybe June or so, till January, I think, January this year. So all React apps had service workers, but they were all unregistered. So in the index, if a commenter says saying just move unregistered thing and make it registered. Okay, so I think I got stuck for a second. So it was easier to convert your web app into a PWA. So you just make it registered, and it just it becomes a PWA after that. So Angular has its own module that you can use, and anyways, you can just import Workbox as an npm module. And as I said, it was there in React till about Jan, but then React team decided to have it as a template. So right now you need to use the template in order to install Workbox. Instead of Workbox, right now what they have in the index.js file is a performance thing, that a performance monitoring feature. So instead of Workbox. So if you want Workbox and if you want to convert it into a PWA, it's better to use, it's easier to use the PWA template provided by React. So this is a website called Hacker News Readers, which this shows various framework implementations of PWAs and how well they perform with each other. So you can check this out as well. It's a link that will be shared later on, and you can check it even now if you want. So you can go and check how your favorite framework has implemented PWAs. You can look into examples, as well as you can see how they perform in the real world. So this is another service worker. This is actually a service worker created using Create React app. So Workbox has its own command line tool as well. So you can generate these files. And as you can see, even though it looks a little bit cluttered and There's a lot of code here. I think if you just take a few minutes and look into it, you'll be able to figure out what's going on there. So I'm not going to focus a lot into coding because I think you really need to try it out. I'll give you a GitHub repo towards the end of the session to go and check this code. Yeah. So if you open Chrome DevTools, so this is twitter.com. If you go and open Chrome DevTools, you'll be able to go into application and check what service workers have been registered for this particular domain. And so this is what the Twitter service worker looks like. So whenever there's an update cycle, you can go and check this out there. And as you can see, there's cached content over here. So you can go there and check what Twitter actually cached, and you can use that to debug your application and make sure that you're not caching unnecessary details and slowing down your loading process. This is another Lighthouse demo that I ran on Twitter. So if you take a look at it, like if you just run this in the progressive web app that you're creating, it will tell you what you're missing. So some things here like some things like start URL, HTTPS. So you might have to enforce HTTPS when you're serving locally, because otherwise you won't be able to see how the PWA performs, even though you've implemented everything correctly. So that's another thing that I thought that was good to mention. But so there's always a but. So there are few drawbacks. If you've been listening so far, you would have noticed that there are a hell of a lot of advantages of using PWAs, implementing PWAs, but there are few disadvantages, or I would say drawbacks, that might be addressed in the future, but right now they will appear to you as drawbacks. So first time page loading may be slower due to caching. So you need to make sure that your caching strategy is screen brightness. I think I'm okay now, right? Screen brightness can't be adjusted. That's a drawback. That's a problem that I came across when implementing a PWA, and geofencing isn't supported. So geofencing is when you define a certain geographic location, and when a user enters it, you can send them notifications or messages. So that's not supported yet. It probably will be supported because GPS is supported, and you can't list it in the Apple App Store. And I don't really think that they'll want to have PWAs on the App Store, because ultimately it's not helping them. So Apple devices have a few limitations that I've come across. So one thing is the installation process is not straightforward for users. So you, as a developer, you might want to have a way of telling the user how to install your PWA, because otherwise you'll be doing all the work, and then the user won't know that this is possible in your iPhone, in his or her iPhone. Then push notifications is an issue. It's not directly supported on iOS, but you can use Firebase cloud messaging for push notifications. It's a little bit tricky, because you can have only one service worker per app, and only the latest service worker will get registered, and it will throw away the old one per domain. So you need to be a little careful when you implement Firebase cloud messaging in a progressive web app. So it's possible, but it's a little difficult. Then camera access for older versions of iOS, in the sense, I used to test it on an iOS 13 device. I can't exactly remember 13 point what it was. So in an iOS 13 device, but it didn't work because they didn't let us use the camera when we were opening the application outside the browser. So inside the browser, inside Safari, it was possible to open it, but then when you save it, it wasn't possible. So when you're testing, it's good to keep in mind that even though it's not opening in newer versions of iOS, it does open and it works. Then a few experiences that I've had with PWS. So I've built around 3 to 4 PWS so far, and these are some of the things that I came across, like I've been mentioning in my drawbacks as well. So one service worker per app, and the scope of the service worker is, so when you keep the service worker in your root directory, the service worker will control requests from all pages at that domain. So you need to make sure where you place your service worker in your file structure. And of course, create React app, the old one versus the new one, there's a difference, like I mentioned. If you want to implement it now, it's better to use the template, or you can install Workbox separately. And deep linking. So deep linking is the possibility of opening another application on your device using the current application. So for this, it is possible. It's possible, but so I got a requirement saying that it would be better if you could redirect the user to another application without the user having to touch the screen. So that was a bit of an issue because it wasn't possible. Google used to support it, but due to privacy and all these other concerns, security reasons, they don't let you redirect the user out to a different application. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. You need to get the user's input to redirect him to another application. And be careful with the caching strategy, because you can choose network first, cache first. It depends on what content you want to save and what content you want to show first. So if it's latest news that you want to show, latest information, it will be better to go with a network first strategy. Then HTTPS is a must, and I noticed that Chatu mentioned that service workers allow localhost without HTTPS. So I think it's good to mention that now itself, because I couldn't remember that properly. So yeah, just keep that in mind as well. Electron app or PW. I think you lost me for a second there, but then yeah, you get the point. I just wanted to. So how can you decide which one you're going to go with? Native, of course. If you're planning on going native, you probably have requirements that cross-platform apps can't satisfy. So just think about whether it's really necessary. So even if it is necessary, it's better to have a PWA as well, like I've shown you in the Twitter and Flipkart examples. So cross-platform, Flutter or React Native. So cross-platform, it depends on the requirement actually. So if you take cross-platform, you can use a similar code for the web, even with Flutter, even though it's not exactly that stable. React Native, you can use the logic, but then you can't use the exact same code for your application as well. So that's a drawback there. And of course, the size comparison, ultimately, Flutter or React Native is going to take up the space that your native app is going to take. And then hybrid or Ionic. So since we are in the opinion section, I would say please don't build hybrid apps. Some of you might be against that, but I don't know. It's really pointless at this point in time. It's really pointless to build a hybrid app, in my opinion. And I don't want to mention companies, but some telecommunication companies have really bad user experiences, and it's really difficult to use the applications. Even though I'm a techie person, and I know most techie people find it difficult. So you can imagine how difficult it is for the user. Then Electron or PWA. So this is a statement that Google had put up in the Google Chat support page. Google Chat, one of the Google Chat progressive app. Google shut down the Electron-based Google Chat app in March 2021. You can use the Google Chat Progressive Web App in its place. The PW offers a faster and more secure experience with better capability and reliability. The PW automatically updates as long as you keep up with the Google Chrome updates. So the update story is, of course, I think it depends on if you want the latest features, but I don't think that it will have a direct impact on your user experience. So you can see that Electron is a good way of getting the user to keep the application downloaded, but then considering all the benefits that PWS bring, so it's pretty clear that it's better to just build a PW. I've been using this Google Chat PWA for quite a while now, and I'm looking forward to Discord having their own PWA as well. I think if you, as a developer community, I think you would love to have that. So these are a few learning resources that I thought that will be beneficial for you and that I used to learn about PWS. So the first repo, of course, is a very basic implementation of a PWA, and I followed a Google Code Lab. So the Google Code Lab link is also linked inside that repo. And the one on the right, so 7 ways to PWA, this is by Fireship.io, I think, the YouTuber who creates pretty concise and really good content on YouTube. So this link actually takes you to his own website where you can find out several implementations of contact, picker, share, and all these really new implementations of PWS. Then, of course, there's a Mozilla documentation, which is always pretty reliable. And like I mentioned before, web.dev, websites that took all the right vitamins. I think by now you can realize why that statement is true. And I hope that you'll be able to read more about it and learn more things that I didn't have the time to mention here, because PWS have quite a lot of capabilities. So yeah, with that, we'll be coming to the end of the session. And I think that you'll benefit from actually checking out my Medium, because I have a few JavaScript related blogs written there, and I think that'll be beneficial for you to just check out. So yeah, that's it from me. I think we can move into the Q&A session. Chatu and Pupudu, are you there?
We're getting back. That's Pupudu.
Yeah, we are here.
He's also back.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Chatu, I can hand it back over to you to moderate the Q&A session.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Dinaka, thank you very much for the content. And it is really well planned session. And it was actually in a good way of, we had a good flow of things going on. And yeah, this is kind of really interesting to listen to this one. And is it okay if I add a few things?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
There's of course.
Yeah. So in the Create React App team, they actually, in the beginning, they actually had given the PWA capabilities, I mean, the service worker part, as a default. And as you said in the session, it actually have some of the features to cache the assets. So which make a few of the developers, when they're debugging in production, it took the caching things around. So since people who didn't know about there's a service worker doing the casting for them, it became a kind of a problem, and the team thought of making it a opt-in than the default one. So then everyone had to turn it on because it is come as a commented version to register service worker.
Yeah.
And even though they did, as a Create React App, they actually kind of a opinionated framework. So they actually decided to make it kind of a template thing. So those who actually want it, they can use it. So it's up to the framework kind of thing. But that's really good to have kind of a history going out. And service worker, if I give a few points, since we actually had a topic, and I think we had a previous session on service worker in Meetup, I don't remember. So anyway, service worker kind of a proxy thing where it keep in the network and your application, so you can actually listen and modify the request and the response in the middle of your application. So it's kind of a proxy application, and you can actually use it to model multi-thread application also, since it is a worker. And other thing is, service worker cannot access your DOM. So it can access your request, but you cannot manipulate DOM inside the service worker as for the security measurements. And we got few feedback for your sessions, and I think we can highlight them, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of feedback.
Yeah. So we got, I think,
Hi Dolara, Suresh, and Tulina.
Yeah, me.
So, right.
Vitushan, our previous, one of our previous speakers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vitushan.
The happy.
We want another one, Vitushan. No? And you got Bhagya. Thank you very much for having seen this session from Sweden. And we got few questions too.
Yeah, we have a few questions here.
Is it a way to create desktop apps like Electron? Okay, yeah, so that's what I tried to compare over here. Let me move to the slide. That's what I tried to compare over here. So Electron apps are very resource hungry, and PWAs said that PWAs aren't. So I think that's a massive plus point there. And is it a way to create desktop apps like Electron? Yeah, you can take it as a way to create desktop apps as well. So
I remember that you showed a demo also that is running in Mac as a Mac desktop application.
Yeah, maybe I can show it again. It's not.
Yeah, this one.
So as you can see, it looks exactly like a desktop app. It doesn't look any different than a desktop app.
So it's going to the dock and it's open as an desktop application, and you don't have the address bar. And
it's simply your web application running as a desktop app, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With all the browser stuffs hiding out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have the bookmark bar
so
and
even
stuff.
Yeah, even on the phone, that's the same. Yes. Yeah. So this is also a PW. So it's the same thing. You can try out the Twitter app actually.
Yeah. But to edit that, as you said, that it won't be able to publish in Apple App Store, and Apple doesn't trying to give the more support to PWA. I think it's because they have the payment issues, which is currently on the court. Let's see how it's going.
Yeah, I think they can't control it, right?
Yeah, because even in developer forums, I saw that they've been neglecting it for about 3 years, and they suddenly decide to tell them to go and mention it somewhere else. That's what the response was, that it's not the proper place to request for features or something. People are mad there. So I think we can move on to the Chatu,
there's another question. Yeah.
How about pervasive web app? Yeah, you can upload. So I think he's trying to ask whether you can upload the user data to our site, right? So I'm not.
That's kind of that you are going to listen for the location changes.
I don't think that's a really good idea, right? When the application is closed, I don't.
So there's another one.
Yeah, this is like silently
No,
uploading your.
I think Dulara also had
yeah.
another.
Yeah. What if we fail to fetch the initial web request? Yeah, there's a custom. You can show any page that you want. Custom error page instead of the. Yeah, you can do that.
Best thing in the PW is it support the offline. So this movement is coming from the offline first movement. So yeah, you can actually show some of the offline things that you cached in and notify the user if you are currently offline.
Yeah. So to add to all this, I actually forgot to mention that caching takes a bit long. So the very first request will take a little longer than a usual web app. So it's not the best idea to make your landing page convert your landing page of a website into a PWA. It's more of a. It's better to have a PWA if you want to get the users coming back regularly to the site to use it. So I remember to say that because Dulara wanted to know whether you can actually show a custom error page. So for that, you need to cache that page as well. So just think about how you're basically loading the entire site's content in the first load itself. So yeah.
And thing is, you can actually record the GPS location if the user given you the permission. But the thing is, you cannot record it, I think, in the background. It need to be run in the program.
Yeah, so you can update the application in the background in Android and I think desktop. iOS won't allow the background update thing, but you can't send user details to you can't take user details unless the app is running.
Yeah, you can update in the background. I think in the service work, if you push an update to service worker, you can do it the update. But the thing is, I think you need user intervention if you want to reload it, or otherwise you need to close it and come back again.
Yeah. Resource, yeah. So I think the best resource is web.dev. Let me.
Yeah, I think we can go to the slide that you have showed that Fireshift's documentation and the MDN.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Fireshift has a lot of good videos about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of the points that I mentioned were also mentioned in his video. So.
And web.dev is actually from Google, and Workbox I think also. Yeah, Workbox is from Google too.
Yeah.
And for the workbook, I think they have few Google I/O sessions when they announced it. I don't remember if they had few sessions on this I/O actually. I didn't have time to go through all the videos.
They had a few sessions on PWAs. I think not really focused on one. I also didn't watch everything, but
I'm still watching. Yeah, and I agree with you on the hybrid approach. Hybrid app is actually you actually running a web view inside a normal native app like Ionic and all stuff. So I actually agree with you on the point that you mentioned, because PW already give you that features, most of the features like camera access and all this native hardware device accesses. So why are you going still on investing on creating hybrid app rather than creating a good mobile supported application with PWA capabilities?
I think at the moment most of the people don't use hybrid applications. I don't see any.
The sad thing is, I know some people are still doing that.
Yeah,
no, but I think I'm still getting few mails from Ionic. And they actually, I think they're supporting React also recently. It was previously Angular based one, and they actually I saw that they support React too.
Yeah, they support React.
Yeah, and they
so
also
the thing is,
send
it's pointless because you're just losing performance and a good user experience for almost nothing.
And React Native had a React Native Web one also, I think, but it is not much used or stable. I didn't have any idea on that. So you can actually convert.
Yeah, I think Flutter also went that way, right?
Flutter, I think
desktop.
they are rendering images, right? So it's not exactly like you can't get the DOM content and all that. Probably affects SEO.
No, I think they're actually using the Dart Dart2JS compiler, because Dart has a very easy. Dart was previously a Dart2JS one before the Flutter, so they had the JS compiling capabilities when they started even, and I think they actually doing the Dart2JS compilation plus I think Iskia to DOM conversion. Anyway, Dart code is running compiled to JavaScript. I don't know about the DOM manipulation part. I had to look out.
Guys, what do you think about WASM, WebAssembly? You can
Yeah,
use
WebAssembly and the
WebAssembly on
service worker.
AWS, right? You can use WebAssembly in AWS, right? And get
yeah. You can basically use everything created from 1980 in PWA, so because of thanks to WebAssembly, because it supports C++ and all.
Exactly. I think that's. I think we better do another session on that, Chatu, right?
Yeah, we need to do kind of a WebAssembly one.
Yeah.
We had a few mentions in the meetups discussions, but we didn't have a chance to do a full session.
Yeah. So I think we better give them a small idea about it, an introduction to WebAssembly. Just
yeah,
a small.
Let's see. We just have a kind of a poll in the meetup group, and let's see who's what is going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we got Lankaratna saying that Ionic is good, has a good demand in Fiverr. Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah, so
going on.
People don't know what they want until you give them the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember it's, I think, from Ford, right? Henry Ford. That if you ask for the customers what they will want a faster horses.
So it's the professionals' responsibility to give them the right thing and show them the right path, right? It's our responsibility.
Yeah, but thing is, I think in the Fiverr you have all the things that descripted out, and you need to provide the service on that one rather than selling. But
Exactly.
yeah, better to have it in the proposal. Yeah. Are we having any more questions? Yeah, let's give another few seconds to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems cool. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ping Dinukai on Twitter or in LinkedIn. And I think, as he said, you can have a good look out in his Medium articles also. And yeah,
also,
till next one.
and also you can ask on our Discord channel. The Say Detox also have a good Discord channel. I think there's about 270 people in there, Chadu. But
That's cool.
yeah, so people are asking questions, and don't be shy to answer questions. Don't just ask questions, answer questions and help people get involved and see how to grow the community together.
Yeah, cool. And thank you very much, Dinuka, again applying for as a speaker and joining on this journey and sharing your experience. And thank you very much in this rainy weather and joining with us and doing this one. And the content is really good. And let's share that GitHub repo link in the Meetup group and the Facebook group.
Right.
So after that, people can actually go roam around and see what is the service worker going on and how the PW is structured. The best part is actually in the manifest and the service worker. So I have to look around these two files. I hope that one is right. Yeah, and cool. And just surprise in 5th of Saturday, in this Saturday, day after tomorrow, I think, yeah, we are going to have another episode of JavaScript Meetup.
Yeah.
Till then.
Thank you. So thank you, Chatu and Mubundu, for having me. And I would like to thank the entire organizing committee of the Colombo JavaScript Meetup for having me here for this session.
Awesome.
Cool. And we need to thank all the participants who actually in the our YouTube channel and the Facebook and having these questions and giving the feedback also. And thank you very much for joining us in this rainy weather too. Yeah, till the next one.
Yeah.
Have a good
So everyone,
and healthy time.
and stay safe, stay inside.
Yeah.
See you everyone.
Stay inside.